And I'll be like, hey, 2 underwears plus more underwear. How much is that? 3 underwears, Mom. We were kind of taught to be the parent who makes all the decisions. And then we face resistance. Then we have power struggles. Then we have self-esteem that gets damaged. So yeah, so she was like, oh yeah, cool. I never thought about how you could do math just like that throughout your day. So today at a play date that my child had, one of the moms started to explain to me that her daughter was struggling with reading and writing English. And that they had tried a few things. In particular, there was sort of like, they structured it by sitting down at the table and setting up a time to make it sort of like a disciplined practice of doing some reading and writing in English. Now, this wasn't working because the child was resistant to the idea of having to sit down and do this, sort of with her parent, sort of not necessarily pressuring, but asking her to do it. Yeah. So this is, I mean, when we have a concern about our child, we sometimes, what's the word? Dictate the way it's going to be. We have our best interests and best intentions at heart. But so her daughter was struggling with the reading and writing, but Mom made the rules of what was going to happen, right? Mom made the rules of what was going to happen to support the child with her literacy. There was a less collaborative approach. This is how the mom was explaining it to me. So she would try to get the daughter to read and write at home in a very disciplined, structured way. And that wasn't working. Then Kumon, and I don't know the approach in Kumon and what the instructors are like and how they make it fun and how do they meet the child where they're at. I actually don't know because I've not done Kumon and not to have that experience. So I explained to her what me and my daughter did. My daughter's in French immersion, and I had spoken to a few parents a little while back who indicated, when their child went through French immersion, they found that the child struggled with English reading and writing. So I kind of made this decision that we would implement a way for English reading and writing practice to be sort of incorporated into our daily life. So me and my daughter, we came up with a plan and an agreement to start doing some reading, some English reading. And she had some French reading as part of her grade 1 homework, just little short books to practice French. And then we would read, we made an agreement, okay, and I'm saying agreement, this part's really key, make agreements with your kids, get them on board, get their buy-in. And we made an agreement to start with reading 1 paragraph, just 1 paragraph. That was back in October 2022. Just 1 paragraph, and you incorporate the child's needs. So my need was to assure that she feels really healthy and comfortable with being able to read English when she's out and about and she's getting to explore stories and enjoy books beyond the pictures. And she loves reading and loves books. So that was my need, right? To support her well-being through literacy. Yeah. Her need is choice. Her need is autonomy. Her need is connection and respect. You can see my kids' needs posters behind me. So she got to choose whichever book she wanted. She got to choose which page. She got to choose which paragraph. And she got to control the reading process. So what does that mean? I wasn't going to jump in to tell her a word she was struggling with until she would ask me. Okay, how do you say this one, Mom? Or what's this one? Or what's this one? She disliked it when, how sometimes you like say the word because you're reading along with the child. She disliked it when I did that. So I would use self-control and make sure that I didn't do that and waited until she asked for the help. And this supported her. Then we started talking about math and how we do this with math too. So one of the keys with how we sprinkle in learning in a fun way is we literally sprinkle in learning throughout our day. So we don't sit down at a table with a worksheet and a pen and a paper and a book to necessarily work on math, although that's a viable way to do it. But if you have a child who's resistant to the process of academic learning, we got to meet them where they're at. We got to make it fun. We got to make it interesting. And we got to make it a collaborative process that the child can get on board with, buy into, and make an agreement on. Yeah? We need to meet their needs. My needs charts are behind me. We need to meet their needs, and that way we can get our needs met. So we have a need for the child's literacy because we know that's going to support them in the future, right? And the child needs play, freedom, self-expression, choice, autonomy. So how do we collaborate? How do we make this work so that both parties' needs get met? I literally talk like that to my children. How do we do this so we can both get our needs met? I have been educating my children on their needs. This is my product you can purchase for several years now, so that we understand each other and can create collaborative solutions in our home that support the positive family dynamics. So how we would do it with math is like I'd be doing laundry, you know, I'm like sitting on the sofa doing laundry. They're just playing on the play mat over here. And I'll be like, hey, 2 underwears plus 1 underwear. How much is that? 3 underwears, Mom. Or we're sitting down and we're eating grapes or chips or pretzel sticks or whatever is fun to eat for them. And I'll be like, hey, 2 sets of 2, a little bit of multiplication. If I take 2 times 2, how much is it? There's 2 sets of 2 pretzel sticks. 1, 2, 3, 4, Mom. And so we would just kind of sprinkle it in, and it wasn't like this disciplined, structured way. We were throwing these little math equations in. It was just kind of like, hey, da, da, da. I would just do 1 equation and be like, move on with my day, and that's it. So it was very, very low pressure with, okay, we're gonna do like 10 math equations or 6 math equations before we move on to something fun. Instead of just kind of like throwing it in there. And because I did that, it was a very low pressure. It was just like, hey, 2 times 2 is 4. Oh, cool, huh? And then they would start using their food to play too, like let's say making letters with pretzel sticks and stuff. And I'm using something tangible and tactile, so multi-sensory learning. And I'm meeting them at their, and it's kind of playful, so I'm meeting their need for play. I'm meeting their need for self-expression too, because then they start to use the pretzel sticks to do whatever they're doing to self-express. So there's so many different needs that are being met. And what would happen is, get this, what would happen is they would ask for more equations. And when I say they, I mean my 4-year-old is into it too. Mom, do another one. Mom, do another one. My 6-year-old would be like, give me another math question. Give me another math question. And I would do that. But it was purely based on their request rather than me telling them, hey, we're going to do the math equations now. We're going to sit down and do math now. That is so much more daunting than meeting them with play, choice, and autonomy. Yeah, does that make sense? And if we were like sitting down on the play mat and playing with toy cars, right? Like with my son, he's 4, and he's got like 20 Hot Wheels cars. I would just throw it in there, like 2 cars plus 4 cars. How much is that? And he would answer. And he enjoyed it because it involved something he liked, toy cars. So I was explaining that to this mom, and she was like, oh, I never thought of how you could just like incorporate it. And sometimes when we're cleaning up like toys at night at Lego, and this is just me sprinkling it in, I'm not like going in with this like laser sharp intention that I'm gonna teach you math now. It's just like, hey, I got 2 green Legos and 3 blue Legos. I think, how many is that? And of course, a little playful, a little bit silly. And my kids, this is for younger kids, of course, this approach. So, and they would answer the question. Okay, Mom, let's do another one. Let's do red Legos, or let's do yellow Legos, or whatever. Or let's do the wheels. How many wheels do we have? So I'm meeting them with where they're at in their need for play. And that really helped. And this mom she was pretty appreciative of me sharing these little strategies of meeting our child in play, giving them some choice and autonomy, coming to agreements when it comes to supporting them with their learning, if they're struggling in certain areas with reading, writing, math, that kind of thing. And I said, it's not like we're sitting down at a table with a pen and a paper and a book, because that can feel really like way less playful, doesn't really meet their needs for choice and autonomy. So how do we come to a collaborative solution that supports everybody? That's a key piece in parenting that most of us weren't taught. We were kind of taught to be the parent who makes all the decisions. And then we face resistance. Then we have power struggles. Then we have self-esteem that gets damaged. So yeah, so she was like, oh yeah, cool, I never thought about how you could do math just like that throughout your day. And I was like, yeah, I just make it super low pressure. I do one math equation, then I move on, and then they're like, hey, can you give me more? And I'm like, okay, cool. Anyway, let me know if that helped.